Okay, before we get the entire video started, I want to make a quick disclaimer right here. The method I'm teaching and also the techniques I'm showing you guys today, I want to make some special thanks to this friend of mine, Xiuming from TAF. Without him and without his support and also without the user's feedback, we wouldn't get everything back together and knowing how to fix the problems that we run into. So, really, thank you guys. And if you guys want to check out some very cool guns, please go to TAF. They do create some amazing custom guns for you guys. So, that's the link right down there. If you need, go check them out. Hey ladies and gentlemen, this is Andrew Lai from Quasmar Airsoft. And if you are watching this video, that probably means there's something wrong with your GHK Glock.
Oh shit, here we go again.
After swapping out to our TRI trigger. Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for purchasing our products, and really, we really do appreciate your support. And so that's the reason why we're here. We're here to help. If you run into any kind of issues, problems, shoot us messages. We will try our best to help you out. So, regarding to this topic right here, what happened? Apparently, based on our market research team, that we found out that there's 30% of you that's really happy with the result. The trigger is great, everything works out fine. There's 30% of you that the gun, the FPS dropped at least, let's say 30 meters per second, which is a lot. And then there's also another 30%. Sometimes the gun fires fine, sometimes the gun doesn't fire okay. And a lot of you guys will be asking, like, what's the reason for that? Well, today in this video, we're gonna show you how to fix all that. Okay, in the beginning, if you saw our previous super long review video, which goes on to 52 minutes, that one inside we did mention about how the trigger works, and obviously throughout a lot of our videos. However, what we didn't find out is that there's this one very crucial component. That's the valve knocker, and especially to the length. If there's something wrong with the length, the gun is not going to function right. No matter how hard you change the flicker spring, or let's say you change to a softer one whatsoever, it's not going to work. So here, let's get a closer look and I will show you what's going on. Well, what I have here, this is one of the very early samples that GHK gave us, the early GHK Glock Gen 5. And then, obviously, this one's got our trigger on it. And here I will show you exactly what happened to your gun and how to fix it. So always take the magazine out and then release the slide. Now, you will see the very crucial components. This part is fairly simple. Let's take it somewhere else. Now, the crucial components, it comes with the flicker, the fire control group housing, and this is the very most important part. It's the lever. If you remember seeing our previous videos, that after we swap out to our TRI trigger, there's no more flex on the valve knocker, which is good. However, according to the original stock trigger, that one has actually got a little bit of flex to it. And when you relate that to the length of the valve knocker, that flex, it's actually good. So, you know, after we swap out to something that doesn't flex, now the problem starts to show up. You see, I would say out of the stock GHK Glocks, there are a few situations that you might run into. The valve knocker being too long, or the valve knocker being too short, or the valve knocker that kind of the length goes in between, in the middle. It's not too long and not too short. And what could this happen? Well, if it is too long, it will pre-release gas. in which when you pre-pull the trigger, it will make the, which is really not good. And if it is too short, when you pull the trigger, it's not gonna fire. And or say, there will be a huge drop to your FPS. And last but not the least, if it is not too long, not too short, obviously, your gun is gonna fire hard and fire soft at the same time. Depends on like how you pull the trigger. So, you know, actually, the strength on the spring right here no longer plays that much of a role to the length of your valve knocker. Instead, it's actually to this linkage and also the fire control group. This is very, very crucial. So here I will make a better view to you guys and you guys can know exactly what's going on. Right here, the first thing that you really need to pay attention to is you need to identify where your problem came from. And here I would like to show you the biggest tolerance that goes into your GHK Glock 17. So the tolerance that usually happens is the fire control group housing. You see, when I use the screwdriver to push this, the fire control group, especially the housing, it actually moves forward and backward. You see that? This is actually really not good because, you see, if you can see the valve knocker, that's the valve knocker right there. And if I move the entire housing, this already makes at least 0.5 millimeter of a movement. And that's really not good because this length is, if there's a slight difference to this length right here, your gun is going to be unstable. That's the first thing. All right, now the second part, when you insert the mag, you see the magazine, it wobbles too. And here I have to say it for GHK though. This part, it is extremely hard to achieve to make sure that it doesn't wobble, it doesn't move, because when it comes to plastic injection molded parts, this is the best they can do. I've worked for an airsoft gun company. I know how this works. So please don't be too harsh on them. It's the way it works. Yep. Back to the gun. You see, here, the magazine, it actually wobbles a little bit. That's also a little bit of tolerance. So you see, when you push the trigger, the first thing that moves is the valve knocker pushing the valve against into the wall of the grip. You see it? Let me do it again. See, now I will push this here, and when I pre-pull the trigger, the first thing the trigger does is it pushes the magazine to the wall. And when it holds the wall well enough, there's no more room for the magazine to move forward and backward. And by the time you pull the trigger, it's gonna release the gas. Okay, so that's the way it works. Now, I will get inside the fire control group and show you how to fix it. Well, for this process right here, there will be a few tools that you will be needing. You will need 2 sets of pliers, and you will need some screwdrivers, and then like the big ones, the small ones, and then yeah, it's not gonna be too much of a work. Yeah, okay, cool. So the first thing to do, you can use a screwdriver or a pin puncher to punch out the pins, and then also on this part, get the pins out and also get the trigger out. Then you can get the entire unit out, just like what we showed before. And let me show you the very, very crucial part that decides how long the valve knocker travels. It's actually this little guy right here. You see? So the first thing to do is you don't want to touch around with your fire control group because there's not much you can do with this guy right here. Or perhaps if we're gonna do it, we do it later. So the first thing I would do is I will use the plier to move this bar a little bit. So this way I can disconnect it with the linkage. Okay, so this part is out. And let me all right. Now put this aside. This guy right here. That's the guy that decides if your gun is gonna have longer valve knocker travel or shorter valve knocker travel. So first thing on the screen, I want you to turn your trigger and also the linkage bar upside down like this to this. And you can use the bigger set of pliers to clamp onto the bottom part like this. I want to hold on to it like that. Make sure it holds well. Because this thing is actually made of, I don't think this is steel, just regular iron, I suppose. So it's actually adjustable. Still, you don't want to bend it too hard, otherwise you might break it. Alright, so the trick is, if you bend this bar right here downwards this way, it would increase the valve knocker length. It will push it out more. And if you bend this to this direction towards to the trigger, it will decrease the travel of the valve knocker. This is extremely crucial. So here, let me show you the way it works. See, this is the valve knocker, right? And then when this bar comes right here, when you pull the trigger, that the bar pushes the valve knocker out. So see, this is the reason why that we can adjust the length on the valve knocker through the angle right here. So let's turn it back to the original position like this. See, now the adjustment is like this. You can use this another set of pliers and then clamp onto it. Say if my gun is it's shooting too low of an FPS and then the recoil got really weak, you want to bend this downwards. And then say if my gun is pre-firing or let's say pre-releasing gas, I want to bend this upwards slightly. So this way that I can control the valve knocker travel on this part. Okay, then you might be asking, then what's the perfect length on that? Here I will show you guys. So okay, now the first thing to do is if there's a very big flex, you see, this is some insane flex on the fire control group housing, and that's something that you don't want. And the easiest way to fix this would be a sheet of A4 paper. Well, right now it really depends on like how you want your fire control group to be, and then because every gun parts are slightly different, so you might need to play around with the tolerance a little bit to make sure that you get the best alignment and also the best fit onto your fire control group. So let's say if I stick in the pin and I can take a look. So right now, you see there's a little bit of flex right here and also a little bit of flex that comes to the side and not so much flex to the right side. So this way that I know, okay, I need to start stacking up this sheet of A4 paper on this side. So in this case, again, we're gonna bring out our best friend, Dr. Super Glue. All right, so here's our good friend, Super Glue. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna add some sheets of paper on the left side and make sure that this thing stays in the place and it doesn't wobble. That's a big surface right here, and then perhaps I can use scissors and cut some papers. Okay. Then, yeah, when you apply the super glue, you also want to be careful that you don't want the super glue to go inside your fire control group, because if it does, the set is done. So gotta be very careful with that. So in this case, I think I wouldn't stick it right on. I will hold the sheets first and then use the super glue and then add them together. Apparently what this does is that you know, when super glue works with paper, it's almost like forming a fiber. It's quite amazing that it just turns itself into this super hardened material, and which I like that a lot. And yeah, now we're sort of forming a sheet of plastic. And yeah, don't get it on your hands. It's gonna be quite annoying. So here on the rear, that has some super glue to it, like this, and wait for it to dry. And during the time, you don't want to have your cell phone around, because one drop of super glue on your cell phone screen, it's gonna ruin your day. All right, careful. See, now the good thing about super glue is that it dries super fast. See, now I got this sort of sheet of fiber-like thing in my hand, and now I can gently apply it to the side, kind of like this. And you don't want to cover this. You don't want to cover this hole, and also like perhaps this pin you might want to cut out. If you are not going to take it apart, then I think it's okay that you put it here. Okay. Now I'm gonna do the trimming on it. And if you need some assistance with the like a marker or maybe a pencil or something like that, feel free to use it. See, now that I got this sheet right here done, and I can just pre-trim it a little more. Yay! Now let's stick it back in the grip. See if it still wobbles. You see, now once done that, if you see there's still a little bit of gap after you insert the pin, then this means that we can probably add 2 sheets more. Yeah, also something to pay close attention to is that when you are using super glue, I would suggest wearing eye protections, because if 1 drop of super glue goes into your eye, that's it's not gonna feel good. Not gonna feel good. Okay, I think this sheet should be ready. Let's try it again. Oh, thick. Yeah, that's much better. Now see, once you got it in there, you gotta make sure there's no more wobble. If what you did makes no wobble on it, then this thing is good to go. And it's always very valuable to have yourself a set of file at home, because once you want to use the paper and super glue technique, a set of files can help you to achieve so much things. You see, now that I can use a file to kind of file it off and then fine tune it to trim it, so this way that it gets to the perfect thickness, just in case if you apply too many sheets of paper, then it's a little too thick. You can use this method to, you know, get it fine-tuned. Make sure that it gets into the right place, so you can really eliminate the wobble on your gun. See? Now this is like a perfect fit. There's no right and left wobble anymore, and this is good. Just in case if you stuck it in too hard that you can't get it out, don't pull this pin or hook on the other side. It's gonna break it. You can use a screwdriver or perhaps anything that's long enough like this, and then put your hand here and kind of just push on it, and it will push it up. Do it the smart way. Don't break anything. All right, beautiful. See, no wobble, super tight fit. If you can do this, you already fixed 90% of your GHK Glock. All right, now let's stick the pin back in. Okay, then just like what we did before, let's put everything back together. And again, I love this trick. Done. No more wobble whatsoever. Okay, now here, I will show you how you can identify to see if the adjustment is correct. The first thing you want to notice is that you want a little bit of flex on the valve knocker. So when you are pre-pulling the trigger, you want to see that tiny bit of movement. And just before it releases, the length is just right. And how do you know if it is just right? Well, you want to charge your magazine with gas and put some eye protection on. And then also, when you fire the gun, this rubber will fly out. So you got to be really careful with that, okay? So once you stick in the magazine, you want to press this. And now the valve knocker, it is already like touching the valve itself. You can see it? Okay, so here comes the thing. If the adjustment is too short, it's not gonna fire. Once you pull the trigger, nothing will happen. But if the travel is too long, when you pre-pull the trigger, it's not gonna work. See, like right now, this is the situation when the valve is, see, this is too short. So when it is too short, nothing will happen. Okay, now right here, I've adjusted to have the valve knocker to travel slightly longer, but it seems like it's traveling a little too long. And what happens if it travels a little too long? Well, this will happen. Yep, it pre-releases gas, and that's not good. So you have to repeat the whole process again to adjust it slightly to make sure that it won't pre-release gas. Now it's bending too much towards here, so it's actually giving too much gas. So now I have to pull it up again. Make sure that it's like somewhere in the middle. And also something to pay special attention to is the angle right here. You want to keep it as 90 degrees as possible, because if this is too, if this part bends upwards too much, the gun will only fire once and it won't reset. And if this brings all the way down too much, then your gun won't fire, since it's just because the release lever is pushing down. So the angle on this part right here actually decides how tall the reset pin is. So in fact, this entire section right here, it is extremely tricky. So be really careful with the dimension right here. Okay, now I've adjusted. I'm gonna put everything back. Sheet of paper. Alright, let's see if the magazine If the valve knocker is well adjusted this time. Oh, see? Now it's no longer making that pre-release sound. So, once you put everything back together, you will finally get a very nice functioning Glock and also very reliable. Okay, here's another tip. When your gun is not firing in a reliable fashion, something might happen is the valve. Because the GHK valve, it's actually, how do I say that? Kind of like upside down to the other valve system, in which this part, if for a brand new valve, this part, it actually moves quite alright. But if you have a very old magazine, it will start to, you know, get a little sticky, and that's not very good, especially when you are doing some rapid fire. If this thing doesn't follow up, then it's gonna have some problem. So I would say just use the quantum speed, or perhaps add a bit of wet lubricant to the gap around it when there's no gas inside. Give a few drops to make sure that it goes into the valve, and then tap it a few times. So this thing comes back alive. See, now it's moving a lot faster. When you are doing the rapid fire, this thing is gonna follow up. And this will give you a pretty decent responses too. Boom. Done. Alright, so here comes the conclusion. Well, apparently that's the way to really fix your GHK Glock. Because the thing is, we can provide you an accurate and also a very precise machined trigger. However, what we can't control is how the entire production comes out from GHK. But still, I don't hate them, because the thing is, inside this little package right here, there's at least 5 to 10 different production methods that goes inside. You know, such as there's the plastic injection molding, and then also the metal extrusions, or CNC machining, anodizing, you know, rubber molding, powder metallurgy, and then also stamped steel, and even spray painting. Like, for real, like each one, it's got its own tolerance. And then let's say if certain manufacturers they make some mistakes perhaps, and then the tolerance is off. You know, each part adding back together to this little package, it is in fact extremely hard to make everything functioning. And you might be asking, like, what about Tokyo Marui? Well, Tokyo Marui is God, so especially when it comes to quality control. So that's just my honest opinion on the guns. And perhaps the techniques that I showed you can help you to at least somewhat fix your GHK Glock and turn it back to a reliable sidearm, that's something that you will want to take to an airsoft game and really enjoy the fun of it. That's it for the episode today. Stay tuned, and we'll see you very soon.